rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. All right, really quick programming note before I forget, or so I don't forget at the end of the show. I'll try to remember to say it at the end of the show as well. Tomorrow, there will not be a show. There is, we didn't know this, but unfortunately, I have a personal matter that I need to pay attention to, and it likely falls flat right in between the show's time. So there will be no show tomorrow. I will pick back up on Friday. So I apologize. I know it's short notice. Normally I know these things a little bit earlier than this, but unfortunately it was a schedule for it. And so I'm not in control of the schedule. So that's the one challenge that you have with doing something like this. Occasionally, you do have to make room for other things. So, no show tomorrow, show on Friday, and Saturday as well. So, we should be good with both of those. All right. Cannot forget, tonight is, of course, oh, wait.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
It's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And, not really too original here. Four Roses. I'm getting down through the bottle. So Four Roses here on tap for tonight. And, of course, tonight we have it in the famous True Grit Roots Network glass with the requisite stones in the bottom of the bottle, bottom, whatever. Anyway, so there you go. True Grit Roots Network right here. Smooth. All right. Let's see, who was on tap? Oh, yes. Definitely Not Karen is on tap for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Definitely Not Karen as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Definitely Not Karen, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing or reciting the pledge in your style, and take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. Hey, Jarhead, why don't you be my number 21? How about that? I'm going to toss that out there. Be number 21. Number 21, like 21 gun salute there, buddy, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I am looking for 21 and 22. I have 20, but I need 21 and 22. So, yeah, I'd appreciate it if you would do that and pick up 21. That way I can bug everybody to get number 22 in there. All right. And, of course, because tonight is Whiskey Wednesday and TGRN Wednesday, that's Whiskey Wednesday above everything else. Sorry, John. So here we are. We are True Grit Roots Network is our headline sponsor, TGRN.net. is our home on the web. You can go to that website and you can listen right through your browser. You can see both of the wonderful widgets, web widgets that we have. And you can listen to both Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, or you can listen to Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, both of our channels. Wonderful groups of fantastic music and shows by our on-air personalities. And if you want to take us with you, you can also download our app for either WTBR or DMO radio. You can do that by heading off to the App Store or Google Play. You can search up either Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. You'll find both of them. Or if you just want to open up your browser and hit tgrn.net, we got links right there for the App Store and the Google Play Store for both of those apps. You can go and check them out and download them. Take us with you everywhere you go. And you know what? If you really and truly enjoy our stuff, our shows and everything, why not head on over to the shop, the TGRN, the True Grit Roots Network shop, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, and caps, all from either TGRN direct with the TGRN logo on them, or you can pick your favorite between Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio or Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, or why even have to pick? Why not do both? And that way you'll be completely covered, regardless of what your favorites actually are. So go and check that out. You can hit that either by clicking the link shop, the shop link in our top menu at tgrn.net, or you can go direct to the TGRN shop by going to shop.tgrn.net. That's shop.tgrn.net, and that will take you right to the TGRN shop. Look at these wonderful things. I like the TGRN True Grit Roots Network logo. Yeah, in black on the hoodie. That's what I'm talking about. And then there's the Dallas Moore Outlaw radio hoodie in black. Look at that. That is just fantastic. And they're really not that, they're not bad in terms of pricing, man. Let me tell you, we didn't price you out of the marketplace here, but go ahead and just head on over to shop.tgrn.net, or just go to tgrn.net and you'll find it. And go and check it out. Go and check out, of course, Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, as well as the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Head on over to tgrn.net. That stands for True Grit Roots Network. And once you do, you'll find that we are based out of Austin, Texas. Oh, well, let's just say that the Democrats, they seem to go more and more radical. Or we find out more and more radical stuff about the Democrats. Oh, goodness. Well, I got some on that coming up here in just a few minutes. Plus, I also have, you remember last night we were talking, and Coco D, insert name here, had a bomb threat show up at the Capitol building, which she actually works on the Capitol campus in Wyoming and in Cheyenne, and she was working there, and they had a bomb scare or bomb threat, and all the bomb-sniffing dogs were running around. She got some photos. As you know, Coco, she's always thinking. Her unofficial producer duties have kicked in when things like this happen. And so she sent me a bunch of photos. So we're going to talk about bomb-sniffing dogs for tonight's Pet of the Week. Hang on for that. But first, the shutdown has now entered into its 22nd day. We're going to be heading into 23, and is now the second longest in United States history. Yes, the Democrats have decided to make history, or attempt to make history once again, because of the shutdown by the Democrats. That's right. It is the ongoing Senate Democrat shutdown. The Senate Democrats have blocked Republican attempts to reopen the government 11 times since October 1st. When all but 3 members of the Democrat caucus had voted against moving forward with the House-passed measure to keep federal departments and agencies funded at current levels until November 21st. Well, now, apparently, this is going to impact food stamps. Yes, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program is now saying that this could impact people for getting their food. And again, keep in mind, folks, all of this is being done because the Democrats don't like the fact that illegals have been specifically barred from health care. That is the purpose. You can't tell me anything different other than that, because that is literally what they are trying to do. And they're doing it in a way that makes you think that they're not doing it, but what they're doing is they're attempting to repeal parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which has put in specific carve-outs to ensure that illegals are not actually on the Medicare and Medicaid rolls. Because, again, Democrats seem to sit here and say, that's really not happening. And then under their breath, but it's good that it is. Because that's the way they roll. See, they couch or they wrap things up to such that it makes you think that the Republicans are actually the cause of all this stuff, and that the Republicans are the ones that are doing this. Yeah, no. They're not. Now, the Senate was supposed to gavel in at 10 a.m. today and try to end the shutdown again. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to do it, there's this idiot. He's a Democrat senator, but there's this idiot from Oregon by the last name of Merkley, Merkley. Yeah, Jeff Merkley. And he is holding currently 21 consecutive hours and counting onto the Senate floor right now. He's doing basically this is a filibuster. This is exactly what a filibuster is. The Democrats filibustered the Civil Rights Act. The Democrats filibuster all kinds of stuff. And this is exactly what they are doing. Now, he began speaking at 6:21 p.m. last night, Eastern Time, and he's still speaking as of now, to my best knowledge at this point. Now, he apparently turned 69 on Friday. Not like I really care. But he's been criticizing Trump's record for quite some time and illustrating his arguments with visuals, such as a green placard, accusing the president of weaponizing the Justice Department, even though the Democrats have done that already. So, yeah, he's been talking about all kinds of stuff, and he's been continuing on and continuing on and continuing on. He's a moron. Again, all of this stuff, as I pointed out to you, all of this stuff is backfiring on them. People are not happy about the government being shut down, even though the government being shut down doesn't affect a vast majority of the people. It does affect some, don't get me wrong, and it's going to start affecting more the longer that this kind of thing goes on. However, his speech, by the way, is paralyzing business on the Senate floor. So they can't even bring up a vote right now, because as long as he has the floor and doesn't leave his desk or sit down, then they have to let him continue. This is one of the rules that they have in the Senate. Now, there is a push to try and destroy or take away the filibuster. Here's the problem, folks. Everything in government, because of the way that we have things, the way that we have things built, everything in government is a double-edged sword. For an example, and this is a perfect example, Trump doing some of the things that he is doing at this time is a direct double-edged sword from what the Democrats have been doing for many, many years. The things that they are doing right now, the Democrats are doing, the Republicans will probably want to do when the Democrats get back into charge. Because, to be completely honest with you, government in and of itself has lost, and the people in government, for the vast majority, has lost things like integrity, ethics, morals, standards, all of the things that would normally make government run. Because after our government was formed, even the founding fathers all agreed. They said, hey, this government is literally for a virtuous people. People who have morals. People who have standards. It is not designed for anything else. And so all of these things that are going on that you're seeing right now today is basically what the forefathers, those smart men who got together and created our government basically out of thin air, have all rallied against and have talked about, including the whole idea of the government not being tied or connected with religion. Because as John Adams said, the Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. We've thrown all that away now. And by we, I don't mean the Republican or the conservative, the strict constitutionalist folks. What I'm talking about is the vast majority of society has thrown away morals and standards and virtues and integrity and honesty and ethics and responsibility, accountability, you know, all of the things that would make up a virtuous people, a moral people, a strong, principled people. And we've thrown it all out. Now, ironically, there is one person on the Democrats' side that I have to admit, I never really thought that this guy would really do this. When he got elected after having a stroke or whatever it was that he was recovering from, oh my gosh, I thought that we were all going to be gone. You're all going to be gone. But, yeah, here in the National Pulse, Fetterman says that he would actually back a Senate Republican move to abolish the filibuster. Excuse me. So Senator Fetterman said Tuesday that he would support Senate Republicans using a filibuster carve-out to end the government shutdown. The comments come as the shutdown enters its third week, with funding for programs like SNAP running low. He said on Capitol Hill, there are no winners here. It's not getting better every day here. People are starting to get really hungry. And I've been fully committed to fund SNAP, open up the government. He also highlighted the plight of the U.S. Capitol Police officers who are not being paid during the shutdown. So, yeah. Anyway, when asked about supporting a Republican proposal to bypass the 60-vote threshold in the Senate and allow a simple majority vote to pass the House's funding measure, Fetterman responded positively to the idea. Carve out for that? Absolutely, he said, referring to the temporary filibuster carve-out. Fetterman also remarked on the broader implications of the filibuster, stating, we ran on that. We ran on killing the filibuster, and now we love it. Carve it out so we can move on. I support it because it makes it more difficult to shut the government down in the future. And that's where it's entirely appropriate. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And I can't even believe that I'm sitting here. I can't even believe that I'm sitting here agreeing with a Democrat. Oh, yeah. I mean, is hell freezing over? Seriously? Anyway, the point being, though, is that something has got to break. Something has got to break. And this is not going to bode well for the Democrats because, unfortunately for them, or fortunately for us, their messaging has been falling flat. The American people, the vast majority, are seeing through this and are saying, hey, outside of the radical leftist lunatics that are the sycophantic Kool-Aid drinking, blue-haired, sex holdout, all of the, I don't know, whatever you want to describe them as. And I use blue hair just as an example. It doesn't mean that everybody that has blue hair is a lunatic. Okay. But it's a good indication in some cases. But anyway, the point that I'm making is it's time for these folks to just pack it up and move on. Now, one of the things that the left keeps saying is that, hey, we want this demand, which is to remove the blockages in the one big beautiful bill with regards to health care and to extend the Obamacare subsidies. The Obamacare subsidies and keep extending them on and on and on. The ones that were created for COVID, by the way, they wanted to cut all of that out. And, anyway, the Republicans keep trying to, extend an olive branch to the other side of the aisle. And here, the Republicans themselves are starting to push this idea to go ahead and renew the Obamacare subsidies while rejecting the Democrats' shutdown tie-in. So here, now, granted, this is the House Republicans. Okay, so keep in mind, the House has already done their job. Regardless of what anybody sits there, what anybody on the left tries to tell you, the House has done their job. They've passed the continuing resolution. There is nothing more that they can do at this point. Nothing more. Okay? The resolution has been passed off as its bill over to the Senate, and it is up to the Senate to either approve it as it stands or change it. If they change it, then it goes back to the House for a reconciliation. And the House can either accept the Senate's changes or even make changes of their own if they want and send it back over to the Senate. See, this is how our government works. I know a lot of people we don't have Schoolhouse Rock anymore to explain all of this. So I have to go down the path and kind of explain it because nobody seems to understand civics under the age of 50 anymore. But I digress. So anyway, a House of Republicans, a group of them, have now started to call on Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, to deal directly with the expiring Obamacare subsidies immediately after the government shutdown ends. 13 House GOP lawmakers, led by Representatives Jeff Van Drew out of New Jersey and Jen Kiggins out of Virginia, are sending a letter to Johnson, yesterday is when they sent it, thanking him for his leadership during the shutdown, but maintaining that the Obamacare must also be dealt with before the end of the year. Now, the Obamacare, which is the Affordable Care Act, do not forget, the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, those are synonymous with each other. They are not two separate things. Okay? But that being said, the Affordable Care Act has emerged as one of the main flashpoints on this ongoing fiscal standoff between Republicans and Democrats. So, Yeah. The Republicans wrote in their letter, every day the shutdown continues to hurt the very people we were elected to serve, including the men and women of our armed forces, the federal law enforcement officers who keep our communities safe, the agents who defend our nation's borders, and the public servants who provide services to veterans, seniors, and their families. We also firmly believe the government funding debate is not the time or place to address healthcare issues, which it's not. Okay? Using the shutdown as leverage to force that debate only prolongs the harm and distracts from the immediate task of reopening the government. Once the government is reopened, however, we should immediately turn our focus to the growing crisis of healthcare affordability and the looming expiration of the Enhanced Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. I actually have a solution for you, Republicans. I have a solution for you, Democrats. And it's really pretty simple. It's extremely simple. In fact, it's so simple that, yes, even a leftist lunatic moron could follow it should they actually read this little book. This little, well, for me, it's leather-covered book. But let me tell you, it has this fantastic thing known as directions on how to run our government. Yes, folks, it's called the Constitution of the United States. And regardless of what anybody else thinks, healthcare's not in it. Folks, all you have to do in order to understand what the federal government is supposed to be able to do and what the federal government is responsible for, I'll even tell you, it's so easy. It's so easy. Even a caveman can do it, like the Geico commercials, okay? Open the book. If you get one of these. Open the book. Look for Article 1. Oh, geez, the number 1. That tells you it's the first article. You know, bypass the preamble, bypass all of that, but go to Article 1. Then, I know it's really tough, but hey, it's less than 10, so you can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go, 8. There it is. Grab 8. All right? Sorry, my camera's gone off kilter here. There we go. Go to number 8. Article 1, Section 8. There is a list of 18 items. 18 items that the federal government is responsible for. I guarantee you, you are not going to find in any of those 18 anything regarding health care. This is part of the reason why things like abortion are gone, okay? Because of the fact that the federal government has no business in it. And hey, let me give you another little hint and clue, okay? If you don't seem to understand the fact that the federal government is only supposed to have those enumerated values, I won't even go down the path of telling you to read the Federalist 41 or the Federalist 14 or the Federalist 45. I won't even go down any of that path. There's this little thing that was added 2 years after the Constitution was ratified. It's called the Bill of Rights. There's 10 of them. Oh my gosh. Just go all the way down to number 10. Number 10, so you understand, number 10 basically says if it isn't written in the Constitution, nor specifically, and this is the key, specifically prohibited by it to the states, then whatever it is that you're talking about goes to the states and the people, respectively. In other words, if it's not in the Constitution, not written in the Constitution, nor specifically states in the Constitution that this is a federal government-only thing, then everything else belongs to the states. Now, if you want to do some kind of program, healthcare program at the state level, like, you know, California wants to give all illegals, whatever kind of, and waste their money, sure. Sure, go for it. Go ahead. Because, folks, the way our federalist system was built, the way our government was built, the federal government was supposed to handle anything from the outside edge border and beyond. Also, dealing with the states in between and in amongst themselves. Everything else, day-to-day operations, dealing with the people, the people of America and everything else pretty much falls under the states. So, yeah. So there you go. All right. Really not that hard. Really not that hard. I'm telling you, you could probably read the entire Constitution in like 15 minutes or less. Maybe 20 if you're a slow reader. It's really not that hard to read and understand it. And if you have questions, you come to people who know the Constitution, not these BS people who sit there and say things like, oh, the General Welfare Clause means that Congress can make whatever kind of law they want. No. The General Welfare Clause, which, by the way, is in Article 1, Section 8, points to the collection of taxes. It has nothing to do with the actual functions of the federal government. So, yeah, there you go. Jarhead. Jarhead says, 10th Amendment, can you restate it? Sure, I can restate it if you really want me to. It basically says that if it doesn't, I mean, I'm not going to say it, obviously I'm paraphrasing here. But it basically says that if it doesn't exist in the Constitution, nor specifically prohibits the states from doing it, then it is a state and people issue. Period. Meaning that if it's not written in the Constitution as a responsibility for the federal government, nor specifically blocking it from the states, then it is a state and people issue. Okay? That's it. That's it. All right? It's really not that difficult. And yet we seem to have, a whole bunch of people in Congress who have absolutely no idea what the Constitution actually says, even though they say that they are, supposed to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Anyway. And yes, Barb over on Facebook. Hi, from Ohio. Anyway, Barb says the states know, or should, what the people of their state need better than the federal government. Absolutely. That's the whole point of the federalist system. In fact, if you look at the way that our system of government is supposed to run and be built, the closer that government actually gets to the people, the more influence the government actually has over your day-to-day. In other words, if you think of it like a pyramid and the people are the base of the pyramid, the closer you get to the base, the more influence things have. And the federal government, being at the top of the pyramid, has what should be the smallest footprint in your life. Anyway. All right. Well, some Democrats are going to start crying after this, after they figure out what the hell is going on. But the whole redistricting thing? Yeah, the redistricting thing, where the SCOTUS is actually looking at Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act in terms of forcing people to use race as a part of the redistricting and all of that fun stuff. Well, another win happened. North Carolina's congressional map has just been released. And by the way, it's boosting the Republican chances in the midterms. Yeah. And what's even better about this is that North Carolina, the way that their stuff is working, is that they don't even actually need the governor to sign off. It's pretty much a done deal. So barring any legal challenges to this, this is what the map is going to look like in North Carolina. Take a look at that. So you can see here you have the pink, well, they're pink, but they're supposed to be red. But the pink districts, and then you have the blue districts. Yeah. So District 2, District 4, and District 12 are the Democrat districts. And everything else is red. All the way up to 14, because they have 14 districts there. So, yeah. Yeah. Remember when I told you a while ago, I was talking on this program and I was saying, hey, you know, the Democrats need to understand that this whole gerrymandering of districts, yeah, that's going to come back and bite you, especially if you're fighting over it, because, you know, the whole thing with Texas did their redistricting. Texas redistricted because of the fact that they had no other choice. They were sued under the Biden administration for the Voting Rights Act, and so they redistricted by law, by the courts. And then California was like, no, we're not going to, no, you guys are going to get 5 more seats? I don't think so. We're going to go and we're going to redistrict. Well, they're redistricting, or they're proposing to redistrict against their own state constitution and against their voters who voted in an independent committee to do the redistricting. Well, that's where Prop 50 came into play. So if you're in California and you haven't voted yet, all I'm going to say is no on Prop 50. Okay? No. If you value free and fair elections with no interference whatsoever, you have no other choice. No on Prop 50 is the way to go. Because you've already said, first of all, your state constitution clearly states that you can't redistrict in between census counts. The next one being in 2030. And you also voted not too long ago to make the redistricting and the gerrymandering done by an independent council rather than the legislature. And it's those kinds of things. Both of those things are being sidestepped by Gavin Newsom. So you go no on Prop 50. No on Prop 50 in California. All right? All right. Well, this is kind of cool, though. Because this, along with Missouri, Louisiana, yeah, they're just going to end up failing, I think, overall. And now this Louisiana case, Louisiana versus Calais, that is actually looking like the Supreme Court might be trying to end any use of race in redistricting, which is a good thing, honestly. Race should not even be a part of it. Neither should political party. It should basically be, and I've said this on the program, the only criteria is how many people live in a specific area. Okay, that's your district. End of story. That's it. End of story. So, yeah, that's what they should do. Well, there's even some more bad news for the Dems. We all know that the Dems party, the Democrat Party, has been, essentially in the toilet, let's say, for approval rating here recently. In fact, I think they were at the bottom of it, the bottom of their approval rating. I think it was historical, the lack of approval that the Democrat Party actually has. Well, yeah. There was a Politico piece that they published the results of some focus groups. And these focus groups, for context and to be completely transparent here, they were held shortly after the election by a progressive group called Navigator Research. And what they found out of these focus groups was that the Democratic brand itself was in deep trouble. The focus groups were made up of voters who previously voted for Democrats, but either didn't vote at all this past year or jumped parties and voted for Trump. They said that the Democrats, they felt, were too weak and too woke. Gee, I wonder why. There was a Georgia man who voted for Biden in 2020 but Trump in 2024 who said, I think the what the Democratic elites and their politicians believe is often very different from what the average Democratic voter is. The elite that runs the Democratic Party, I think they're way too obsessed with appealing to those very far left social progressivism that's very popular on college campuses. Yeah. Yep. Several participants also raised the transgender attack ad that the Trump campaign deployed against Harris, which showed a 2019 clip of her expressing support for gender-affirming surgery for state prison inmates. The ad's tagline included, "Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you." Well, yeah, it's sad. I'm telling you, this is the point. Trump's campaign and what Trump did in 2024 is he focused on essentially the 80-20 issues: crime, immigration, and the economy. Those were the top three issues. Depending upon who you asked, one ranked in the top at least. The top three issues of the 2024 election, and the Democrats did not want to hear about it at all. At all. So, yeah. As for the perception of weakness, by the way, voters were not enthusiastic about Joe Biden. But until he verbally collapsed in the first debate, Democrats kept telling everybody that it was fine. Unfortunately for the Dems, the voters were not enthusiastic about Harris. No kidding. No kidding. Participants described Harris as inauthentic, very dishonest, did not seem competent. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, all right. So, they talked to a couple of three election observers who came to a very similar conclusion about the Democrat Party. Liz Smith, who's a Democrat communications strategist, said the Democrat brand is in the toilet. Many of the Democrats who succeeded this cycle, our best overperformers in House races, for instance, are people who ran against the Democrat Party brand. Trump tore down the blue wall in the industrial Midwest, but he also expanded his vote the most in our bluest and most urban areas, meaning the black vote and the Hispanic vote. She said, when the best way to win as a candidate is to run against your own party, it's that bad. Yeah. There you go. Yep. All right. Well, before I get on to my next topic, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about my good old friends right here on Rumble. Oh, try it again. Let's try it again. Come on. This is not wanting to, well, let me refresh. Let's take a look at this. Okay. Let's see if this will go. Yep, there we go. All right. If you haven't already, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content that you want. Once you've got it, search for my channel and hit that green follow button. That way you'll get a notification every time that I go live. No missed shows, no extra steps. You can grab it right now using the link in the description or pinned in the live chat, which that's really the cool place to go for the live chat. Download it to your phone and you're ready to go. And if you prefer watching on the big screen, Rumble is also available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. All you need to do is search for the word Rumble and follow the channel itself to be part of the action. You can put me on a television screen in widescreen, 1920 by 1080p. I promise you, you don't want to do that. Keep me on the small screen, please. But no, I'm just saying, If you prefer to watch on a television, watch on a television. You could be like some of my Rumble enthusiasts, my Whiskey Warrior P1s, who watch me on the television and then chat on their iPad app, just as an example, or their iPhone or their Android, and that way they can watch the show and chat all at the same time without having to switch things back and forth. So there you go. And apparently, at least according to Bonnie, I still haven't combed my mustache. Well, that's okay. Go and download the Rumble app so you are always alerted, you are always notified, and you always have your favorite shows, including this one, from Rumble on your mobile device, and you can always watch no matter where you are during your day. And go and do that now. Head on over, grab the Rumble app, and do that today and download it and stay connected for us to all the content that you want on Rumble. All right. And, yeah, there we go. Ooh, Rumble's acting funky. Anyway, all right. Well, folks, you know, there's going to come a time where the Democrats are going to have to figure out if they are going to stay the party of radicalism or if they're going to potentially get back to more of the modern, or I should say moderate, part of the party. Right now, I'm going to tell you they are entranced and ensconced and entrenched in radicalism. For absolute certain. I mean, all you have to do is take a look at some of the candidates that they are floating for this year, whether it's for the governorship, whether it's for the New York City mayor, mayoral race. I've got something along that way too. And doing things like this moron, who, by the way, there are so many people who sit here and say, oh yeah, people who believe in Nazism and you know, part of the Nazi parties and stuff, yeah, they are, they're extremely far right wing. Really. They are. And I'm being a little facetious here because that's not actually true. While many people sit here and talk about, you know, the Nazis being the party of the right, the far right, the alternate right, I don't agree. And the reason why I don't agree is because fascism, on its very development by Mussolini and a few others, okay, they were left-wing. In fact, they were communist, socialist, Leninist, Marxist. They followed all of those folks before they created fascism. And so all of that stuff, I seriously believe. Not only that, but the Nazis actually were the National Socialist Party. Now, they despised, believe it or not, they despised communism. Socialists usually do. They usually are against communism. But what's funny, and by funny, I don't mean funny as in ha-ha, I mean more ironic, is when you actually have an individual who obviously is a Marxist or a fascist and has all of those tendencies, and you watch them and you see how many of the Democrats jump behind them, even when there is obvious signs of this is a problem, this individual is a problem, well, then you really see the Democrat true colors and how they are really into radicalism. Here is a perfect example of what I am talking about. This guy by the name of Graham Plattner, okay? He actually has a tattoo. And he's not, let's say, he's not one of those who sits there and looks at the tattoo and is like, man, I really wish I didn't get that. You know, They talked about Pete Hegseth's tattoos, which are all American, all Christian. All of his tattoos are literally conservative or right-leaning, okay? But this guy, they're sitting here and the Democrats are thinking that this guy is going to be the best chance to defeat the incumbent, Susan Collins, who is the U.S. Senator for Maine. This guy is sporting a literal Nazi tattoo. And he is not sitting here saying, yeah, you know, I really should get that resolved. I mean, I apologize to everybody. No, he's not saying that. He's not even saying any of that. But the Democrats are trying to cover this up. They're trying to sit here and say, oh, you know, like for an example, the far left hacks at Politico, they are claiming that his tattoo only resembles a Nazi symbol. No, it is a Nazi symbol. And in fact, Plattner's own former political director states that Plattner damn well knows that it's a Nazi tattoo. Plattner, who sells himself as an everyday oyster farmer in Maine, has turned out to be everything that the Democrats and the media outlets always accuse Republicans of being. So, first of all, Plattner is Nazi adjacent is probably the best way to say it. He advocates for violence. Yes, he advocates for violence, according to the piece here in Breitbart. He wrote just a few years ago in a Reddit post that was deleted after he became a candidate, quote, tell them that if they expect to fight fascism without a good semi-automatic rifle, they ought to do some reading of history. In another thread, he's a 41-year-old military veteran. Now, this is part of the reason why I think military vets, you got to take them at their face value, all right? But this guy, he says, he wrote, after the war, I've pretty much stopped believing in any of the patriotic nonsense that got me there in the first place. And I am a firm believer that the best thing a person can do is help their neighbors and live a loving life. So in other words, this guy went and took the same vote that I did. Or not the same vote, but the same oath that I did to go into the service. And he, which by the way, that oath is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And in his mind, he's like, no. Throw that out. Throw out the Constitution. Throw out the Constitution. He's also added, as a part of that same post, he said, still got the guns, though. I don't trust fascists to act politely. He's also a bigot. As a response to a Reddit thread titled, White People Aren't as Racist or Stupid as Trump Thinks, he said, living in white rural America, he wrote, I'm afraid to tell you they actually are. I live in white rural America. Do I look stupid? Do I sound stupid? Maybe to a leftist I do. But I guarantee you, you guys have all seen my I am a well-educated, I would say better than average IQ. So, yeah, white rural America is not all stupid. He also says that he is a self-described vegetable-growing, psychedelics-taking socialist these days. Oh, yeah. Now, remember, wait a minute. What was that? The National Socialist Party? Nazis? Do you guys kind of see where all of this is tying together? I mean, look, where there's smoke, there's fire. Oh, and by the way, too, let's just add in the racist and the sexist as well. So the Washington Post later reported that Plattner also posted on Reddit asking why black people did not tip and asked why women did not take some of the responsibility for themselves, not get so effed up they'd wind up having sex with someone they didn't mean to. Yeah, racist and sexist as well. He's also a self-proclaimed socialist. He's also sporting a National Socialist tattoo. Well, for those of you that may not know, this is the tattoo, and here is a photo of the guy with the tattoo. Right here. There's the tattoo, and as you can see, the tattoo above it is. Now, by the way, that particular symbol of the skull and bones is called a Totenkopf, and it was used by Hitler's secret police, SS. And he knew when he put it on there. He knew. Yeah. Yeah. Now, he does actually say that it wasn't until I started hearing from reporters and DC insiders that I realized this tattoo represented or resembled a Nazi symbol. This is even him telling the fluffers over at Politico. Says, I absolutely would not have gone through life having this on my chest if I knew that. And to insinuate that I did is disgusting. I'm already planning on getting it removed. However, yeah, his political director, Genevieve McDonald, after the Reddit posts were revealed, those Reddit posts that I read, she resigned from being his political director. She also said of the later revealed Nazi tattoo, she wrote on Facebook, maybe he didn't know it when he got it, but he got it years ago and he should have had it covered up because he knows damn well what it is today. Yeah. So according to a person who socialized with Plattner when he was living in Washington, D.C. more than a decade ago, Plattner had specifically acknowledged that the tattoo itself was a Totenkopf, a death head symbol, adopted by the infamous Nazi SS unit that guarded concentration camps in World War II. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, the former acquaintance told Jewish Insider recently that Plattner said, oh, this is my Totenkopf. Yeah. And he said it in kind of a cutesy little way. So, sure. Now, I'm not going to say that people haven't gotten tattoos that they've, that they've gotten tattoos that they didn't like. I mean, people have gotten drunk in the services, gone and gotten tattoos that they don't like later on in life. But honestly, don't sit there and walk around and sit there and, make light of it. Don't try to say, oh yeah, this is my Totenkopf. No, what you need to do is you need to go and take care of it if you don't like it, especially if it's something like that you supposedly despise. Now, all of that being said, the Democrats are going to stick with him. And the reason why is because they have, like they always do, hey, you are a, absolute horrible person. You're absolutely horrible. But I'm going to stick with you because your enemy is my enemy. That's how they think. They sit there and they might disagree. They might not like the individual that they're working with. But as long as you are a common enemy, they will put aside their differences. And they will focus on that common enemy until that common enemy is vanquished. And that's exactly what's happening here. Oh, yeah, he's a Nazi sympathizer. He's got a Nazi tattoo. He's a racist. He's a bigot. He's a sexist. All of that stuff. We don't care. We don't care about all of that. Because he's going to beat the Republican. He's going to beat the conservative. Yeah, that's what they're after. That's what they're after. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, side note before I get to the next one. Apparently there is a bunch of leftist lunatics that, attended the No Kings rally, and they were like, oh, no kings, no kings. We have no kings in America. But now all of a sudden it seems that there's a bunch of leftist Democrats. There's a bunch of leftist Democrats that have applied to become citizens of the UK, where there literally is a king. But I digress. All right. Well, the more we find out about Ma'am Danny, the more we find out about him, the more I'm just sitting here saying, you know what, folks, let's just be completely honest. This guy, he's a Marxist. He's a socialist Marxist, whatever other kind of thing you want to add to it. And I'm just going to say it. This guy is going to destroy New York City. He literally is. So here's another reason as to why you should not vote for this guy. I mean, I can't even imagine. Can you even imagine? September 11th, 2001, the city that got struck by the terrorists. And now they are seriously considering voting in a guy who supports terrorists and radical imams. He supports the Palestinian Hamas. He supports terrorist groups. He supports the River to the Sea crowd. He supports all of those people. Can you imagine living in a city? Seriously, that went through what it went through on September 11th. A terrorist attack taking nearly 3,000 lives. The destruction of essentially a New York City landmark. And the horror that they lived through for the following year. I can't even imagine. Years, I should say. I can't even imagine. And yet they are now considering and are likely going to vote this butthead into office. So he apparently has been praising and decided to meet with a radical Brooklyn imam, claiming that prior New York City mayors had also met with him and falsely asserting that they did not garner national attention. So Ma'am Danny spoke at Imam Siraj Wahaj Brooklyn Mosque on Friday and praised him on X as one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Bed-Stuy community for nearly half a century. Except there's only one problem. This imam has a long history of incendiary commentary, has appeared as a character witness for the Egyptian Sheikh Omar Abdelrahman, commonly known as the Blind Sheikh, who was convicted of seditious conspiracy in 1995 for his involvement in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and other plots to bomb other New York City landmarks. Yeah. These guys, I'm telling you, this guy himself, he is probably, if not the worst, but will definitely be the worst mayor of New York City. And you know what, New York? I'm just going to say it. If you dumbasses vote this guy in, if you vote him in, you're basically voting in a evil spirit to take over your city and destroy it. That's essentially what's happening here. Okay? That's essentially what's happening here. Yeah. And he will also be the first Muslim New York City mayor. Anyway. I mean, never mind the fact that the earlier on, like Mayor Eric Adams and former Mayor Bill de Blasio and Mayor Bloomberg, they did meet with the guy at one point. But in 2009, as an example, when Bloomberg was the mayor, his decision to meet with the guy did in fact result in negative national attention, including stories by the Associated Press and Fox News, as well as articles written by local news outlets such as the New York Post and the New York Daily News. Folks, I'm telling you, this guy, this Mamdani, he is the darling of the left. The left has gone radical. They have gone extreme radical. This is what they want. They want radicalism. They want to destroy the Constitution of the United States. They want to destroy the political, the very principles and values that this country has been built on. They want to destroy all of that. They want government to become your nanny. They want government to be the almighty for you. That's what they're looking for. And they're doing a damn good job of it as of right now. And we need to be on the lookout. We need to be on our guard over all of this for these people. They're here, folks. We thought they were across the pond. We thought they were across, the Atlantic, but no. No, we're here. They're here. They are here. All right. Let's move on. So, apparently we have decided to ink a deal with our friends down under. Yes, Beck of the Whiskey Warrior brand. We have decided to ink a deal of rare earths. Now, the stock market on rare earths apparently appreciated this deal because America is actually cutting this deal with Australia that's going to cut a little bit of our dependence upon China. Now, for those of you that don't understand, rare earth metals have consistently come from places like China because oftentimes China doesn't really care about, things like environmentalists, things of that nature. They don't really care about any of that. And so what they do is they go around and they get all of these rare earths. In fact, once we left Afghanistan, that was one of the first things that they were doing is working with the Taliban to try and not only take over Bagram Air Base, but also work on a mineral rights deal for the Afghanistan region. Well, both U.S. and Australian mining companies saw significant stock gains after President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed the minerals deal to expand America's rare earth supply and for us to reduce our reliance on China, which is good. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. Seriously. And by the way, at that meeting, thanks to Becky, she let me know. Becky let me know that do you remember there was an Australian ambassador that came up here and apparently posted on X a bunch of disparaging comments and remarks about Trump. And, well, Trump actually talked to the Prime Minister, Albanese, and let's just say he called out that ambassador and was saying, hey, did he work for you? I mean, he said some really bad things, and, of course, the Prime Minister is like, well, yeah, he's sitting right in front of you. And Trump ended there. He basically said, yeah, well, you know what? I don't like you. And I don't think I ever will. So, Trump being very Trumpy. Let's just put it that way. Oh, but anyway, So this is really a good thing. Following the deal, mining companies in the U.S. and Australia saw significant market gains. Rare Earths Limited, Arafura, A-R-A-F-U-R-A, Rare Earths Limited, jumped 29% after the U.S. Export-Import Bank considered $300 million in financing for what it's called the Nolans Project. Other beneficiaries included VHM Limited, Northern Minerals Limited, and Alcoa Corp, which gained as much as 9.6% due to equity funding for its gallium joint venture with Sojitz, Sojitz, S-O-J-I-T-Z. Now, let me just point this out to you, okay? Gallium is a very valuable precious metal. It is used in all sorts of electronics. It is used in all kinds of, all kinds of uses, from computers, cell phones, military hardware and uses. Gallium nitride is a huge and very precious rare earth metal. So, yeah. Now, the funny thing, or not the funny, but the best thing about this whole thing is that it comes on the heels of Beijing talking about enacting unprecedented export controls on rare earths and metals starting December 1st. So Beijing's announcement prompted President Trump to threaten the imposition of a 100% tariff on almost all Chinese imports unless they back down from the rare earth restrictions. But, yeah, we haven't heard anything, or we haven't heard anything from that regarding that. But under the new export rules, foreign exporters of products containing rare earths sourced from China must obtain licensing from Beijing's Commerce Ministry. According to the Chinese authorities, licenses for products with military use will largely be denied. And you think, by the way, you really think that China is like our friend? You know, you people seem to think of it, and by you people, I mean the idiots who seem to think that China is something that we're not supposed to be. They are our adversary. They are our adversary, you morons. Anyway. So Trump said during the signing with Albanese, said in about a year from now, we'll have so much critical mineral and rare earth that you won't know what to do with them. And Albanese was declared, we're great friends and we're great allies. So that's a positive development. Very positive development in the world, the allied world. All right. So really quickly, with regards to Democrats and healthcare, and not to mention energy prices. Yeah. Democrats are the problem. I'm just saying it. Just straight out. Democrats are to blame for all of the rising healthcare costs and the rising energy prices. And it's really quite simple as to why. It's no different than the rising costs of college in America today. It's no different than the rising costs of anything that the federal government gets involved in. Folks, the minute the federal government gets involved, again, this goes back to Milton Friedman, goes back to the three-party payer system, okay? This goes back to that. It all comes from the government. When you have a third-party payer system, that third-party payer, especially when it's not their money, they don't care how much the service or product cost. They don't, because it's not their money in the first damn place. And that being said, they also don't care about the quality of the product or service that is being performed, because they're not the ones who are taking it. They don't give a crap. They don't give a crap about it. And this is part of the problem. See, everybody talks about green energy. And I know, okay, I'm not going to get into the whole green energy thing. I'm not going to talk about, you know, the studies, the scientific studies that have been shown that, you know, that green energy isn't a replacement for fossil fuels. It never can be. That oftentimes green energy, such as windmills and solar panels, are just as bad for the environment and sometimes even worse for the environment. The electric vehicles and their batteries are worse for the environment. I'm not going to talk about any of that. But I am going to talk about this. Government invests in these companies. Government has gone and tried to push, under the Democrats, has tried to push these green energy boondoggles. They have attempted to try and push these green energy things. All you have to do in order to understand anything about green energy, throw out all of the scientific studies, all of the stats, all of the reports and analyses and everything else. All you have to do is look at California. California uses predominantly green energy in its energy production. And there are two things that happen every single calendar year in California. They both end with the word out. Brownouts and blackouts. Because they cannot keep their aging infrastructure and the reliability of their electrical infrastructure up under green energy. Now, look, I am not necessarily against green energy. See, I am of the belief that, yes, green energy exists, but you have to, just like any other tool that you have in your toolbox, just like any other tool that you have in your toolbox, there is an appropriate use for it. There is not a one-size-fits-all that is going to make it across the board work 100% all the time, with the exception of nuclear power. Nuclear power seems to be a very reliable and affordable power source for us. But there are drawbacks with everything. One of them is the spent nuclear material. What the heck do you do with the nuclear waste? Now, if you have a second question on all of this, very simply, take a look at Texas. Texas hit a weather-related incident just a couple of years ago. A very bad freezing storm came through. And what happened? They lost all of their wind power. They lost much of their solar. They even lost a nuclear power plant because the lines were not built for, basically the lines were not built to withstand a freeze like what they had. So again, people, Democrats are going after this. And by the way, Democrats sit there and talk about how affordable green energy is, how affordable solar power is, and all this other stuff. Well, if it's so affordable and it's so able to take care of our energy needs, I have two questions, Democrats. One, why is it that these green energy companies, when you pull away the subsidies, from government, why is it that all these organizations and companies go bankrupt within a couple of years? Look at Solyndra as an example. Look at any of these electro vehicle EV companies that once the subsidies and the tax breaks and all the additional, outside support for them what do? Well, they fail because it is not a sustainable business model. It hasn't been. I mean, I told you this on my program. Here in the Northwest, we deal a lot with hydroelectric. or at least we did. And one of the things from the hydroelectric plants that we've been running, I spent some time with a manager of the hydroelectric plants in my former life. And he basically told me, he's like, oh yeah, we use the hydroelectric to backfill or carry on our overages, but it's our diesel plants that actually run the entire state, or their area, I should say. That same company also has wind farms as well. And I asked them one time, I said, hey, what's the deal with this wind farm? You know, how well does this work? And he basically says, yeah, it is not replacing anything. He said not only that, but the return on investment after you factor in all of the maintenance, the petroleum that's needed, the amount of diesel and everything else that is needed to build these things, they don't come back. And by the time you're about ready to change the blades, which by the way, the blades themselves are not recyclable. So they have to take the blades and dump them into a landfill and cover them up. The fiberglass or whatever it is that they make them out of, the carbon fiber or whatever it is, and you have to replace the blades at like 18 years. And it takes 20 years to actually do the lifespan for these things. Folks, green energy might be an alternative energy for us, but it is definitely not quote-unquote green. The same thing for healthcare and all the other things that whenever government gets involved with anything like this, they screw it up. They make it cost more. They make it less efficient. They, lower the standards of quality on it. All of these things, folks. And I'm not even touching, like for the petroleum products and everything else, I'm not even touching all of the plastics and everything else that we live and you breathe and use in our daily lives that all come from petroleum. What I'm simply saying is all of these wonderful things that the Democrats try and sell you on, they're not wonderful. You have to look at them with reality. Take off the rose-colored glasses, Democrats, and realize that government is not the answer to everything. By the way, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but we're no longer in the Biden era of gas prices. The national average has now dropped below $3. The average price of gasoline in the United States has fallen to $2.98. This is its lowest point since the pandemic era low prices of 2020. So the national average gas price sits about 15.2 cents lower than it did 1 year ago and 19.3 cents lower than just last month, according to Gas Buddy's analysis. So, yeah. Now, part of this is because OPEC has increased production. That's why. That's one of the major reasons. The other reason, it really doesn't matter, but yeah, they have increased production. OPEC has increased production, and there doesn't seem to be anything to suggest that prices are going to rise in the near future. So there you go. And yeah, by the way, don't forget, California, Oregon, Washington, any place that taxes the gas at the state level, yeah, that's where you're going to feel the pain even more for it. But I just wanted to bring you that wonderful piece of news. All right, folks, let's get on to tonight's pet of the week. All right. So, as I said in the beginning of the show, the pet of the week is actually not really a pet per se, but more an admiration for the work that these four-legged officers do on a regular basis. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that ride around, the canines that ride around in the police cars and take down those criminals who run you know, and try and get away and so on and so forth. No, I'm talking about the canine detectors. The canine detectors. The ones that sniff out things like drugs and bombs. In this particular case, they sniffed out, or were attempting to sniff out, which I think it turned out to be a fake, but they attempted to sniff out bombs at the Wyoming State Capitol in Cheyenne. Here's an image of one of those wonderful dogs taken by, of course, the venerable, the wonderful, the longtime Whiskey Warrior P1, Coco D. Insert name here. Here's what Coco writes. Hey, Rick. These are the bomb-sniffing dogs that were brought to the Wyoming Capitol on October 21st due to a suspicious package being left on Capitol grounds. They did a sweep inside and outside. She says, I was hoping you could give a little story about these wonderful, hard-working canines. All right, here we go. I'm going to try and do the best that I can in terms of the story. What a lot of people don't understand with a lot of these dogs is that they are actually taken very early in life. And by taken, I mean put into the program very early in life. Okay. By that, I mean that many of these dogs are picked up at 10 to maybe 12 months, and even earlier than that in some cases, depending upon what it is that you are trying to do with them. If we had Amy Viner on the line right now, she would tell us, of course, that you start training them very early, okay? Very early. So these dogs, and as you can see here, this particular animal that's in this photo, as well as the other photos, these are all Belgian Malinois. Now, Belgian Malinois are usually used for the attack dogs, but they can also be utilized for other things, such as bomb sniffing or drug detection dogs. The reason why is because the Belgian Malinois in particular is such a versatile dog because of the fact that they have what is considered to be an extremely high play drive. That's P-R-E-Y, new word, P-L-A-Y, drive. Play drive. And that makes them very, very trainable. Now, that being said, these dogs, and as you can see this one here, he's another Belgian Malinois walking around. These dogs and dogs in general all have significant sniffers. They've got long noses, long nose caverns, just like a horse. Horses have an extremely developed sense of smell. So do dogs. And so a lot of these dogs, especially some that are also extremely bred for sniffing out things, such as hunting dogs. A lot of the hunting dog breeds are also utilized, like Labrador Retrievers, German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds. They have all been used. Hounds, some hound dogs. I've seen hound dogs, like beagles and things like that, to be used as drug sniffing dogs by many of the forces that use them, whether it's the Border Patrol, I just had it, the airport security folks, any of those, even, and keep in mind, they can actually be taught to smell things other than just drugs and bombs. They can also be taught to smell certain foods. So like even the USDA actually is using dogs to try and sniff out contraband as well. So all of these, these dogs are just absolutely fantastic workers, and they are very versatile in terms of their abilities to do these kinds of things. Now, there's another dog right here. This one is another Belgian Malinois, looks like. But anyway, they say that the dogs, when they go to train them, and again, they start somewhere around 10 to 12 months old. Some private programs will actually accept youngers. younger ones, but they'll be in a program for roughly 32 months or so, 22 to 32 months, depending. And if you're getting what they call a green dog, meaning a dog that hasn't been trained, a green dog can start at approximately $8,000. $8,000 for a dog. You believe that? 8,000. Wow. Anyway, so the TSA, the Department of Defense, they carry out evaluations. They actually do it at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, for an example. And the seller, who is looking to sell a potential dog, brings the dog to Lackland, where it remains for up to 10 days for an evaluation. Now, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes a representative who's looking for dogs will actually go out to breeders and that kind of stuff in order to pick them up. Now, like I said, the training can be anywhere from 22, 24 weeks to 32 weeks, depending upon the intensity of the program and the dog. Now, at the end of it, by the way, this is actually true as well. Okay. And this I found out, they can, when they go and are trained, they only train for certain types of scents. So the number of scents that they are actually trained on is fairly small. But because those compounds that they train on are used in a wide variety of explosives, a well-trained dog can actually sense and smell out up to 19,000 different explosive bombs, explosive elements. Seriously. That is incredible. Incredible. And so, of course, these dogs go through a different level of training or a different type of training than like your protection dogs or anything like that. But there are some dogs that they actually have gone, and some agencies will actually have dogs cross-trained in both. And I actually, just as a personal note, I actually was looking into the training of my dog at the time, who was a yellow lab, for doing search and rescue, because search and rescue is the exact same kind of, or, well, I won't say exact, but very similar training in terms of training them how to scent. And then for the search and rescue dogs, you have trail dogs and you have air scent dogs. Yeah, we do not give these dogs enough credit. We really don't. And the people who train them and the people who take care of them. All right, folks, that is it for tonight, for tonight's broadcast. Reminder again, no show tomorrow. There is no show tomorrow, but I should be back on Friday with a new show. Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Once again, that's Friday night is our next show. Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening and a great day tomorrow, and we'll see you on Friday. Good night, everybody.